Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Welcome everybody to another. Is this a Beyond Bitcoin talk
It could
today?
be either or, interchangeable.
Well, we'll call it a Beyond Bitcoin talk today because this is from the Tulip conference, and the Tulip conference is not just EOS; it's also tokens beyond Bitcoin, right? And that's really where we've been going throughout the earliest days of this technology called delegated proof of stake. Now, we've been talking about this for a long time for those of you who follow us on EOS Talk and Beyond Bitcoin. And what I've talked about for a long time is the fact that there are a lot of beautiful ideas made by brilliant scientists, researchers, thinkers, people who like to bang their heads against problems because we're crazy. And we want to find solutions to those problems. But one of the big problems throughout history is that those people tend to be held back by institutions that kind of rely on them not succeeding, if that's fair enough to say. And as the emergence of blockchain came onto the scene, most people were thinking about just transactions. You know, I can transact this to you, and that's an amazing thing, right? But we created Beyond Bitcoin for a specific reason, right? And that was because I knew at a time before that, whenever I saw what Dan was doing with with BitShares and proto shares and the ideas that he came up with leading to where we are today, I knew that we were going to be taking Bitcoin to new levels. Things that were going to be possible weren't going to be possible with this current version 1 of the technology, might be possible with other versions. And that one of the key ones was being able to talk to people like you who are working on projects that we can give their own blockchain, their own dApp. However they want to do it, they can tokenize their own brilliant ideas. So you don't have to go to a VC, or you don't have to go to a bunch of people with funding. And even further, if something happened to you, you would have an entire community that carries on your work. All of these things are really, really important to kind of come together for this to happen, right? And we know that we're in a place where we need it to happen. We know we're in a place where it could happen violently. And we also know that it's important that it doesn't become violent. And how do we do that? With loving disruption. And you are here to discuss some of the things that you're planning on doing in this space and leveraging crypto to take it beyond Bitcoin, right? And to move into this area where thinkers, scientists, problem solvers can work independently of any institution that might have an intent to ensure that their end goal is not met. So if you could give kind of, I know I kind of gave a blanket statement here and a pretty important...
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I wanted to, though, because I think it's important given what you just told me. Yeah. And mind everybody, I'm not an expert on this, but I will say this. What you're doing, energy is at the center of everything. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you could introduce yourself to everybody, tell them a little bit about your project and what you've accomplished and what your plans are moving forward.
Okay, so I am Robert Cottis, founder, chief technology officer of Golden Energy Corporation. And we are developing an energy technology. First off, what we have figured out for the older people, back in 1989, there was a phenomenon that was put in front of the media, and it disrupted $500 million of federal funds that were about to be released to government labs and universities working on hot fusion, which America, has spent literally billions, several $1 billion on trying to develop this. I first read about tokamak reactors when I was 7 or 8, and I identified a half dozen issues, only one of which has been solved with hot fusion reactors. The rest of them are all still outstanding issues. Hydrogen, the technology that I'm developing is extraordinarily scalable. So at 6x, where for every 1 watt of electrical energy that you put into the system, you get 6 watts of thermal energy out. at that level, it will be cheaper to heat your house in California, where natural gas is relatively cheap and electricity is relatively expensive. It will be cheaper to heat your house with the Brolin technology boiler than with natural gas. That's at 6x. At 10x, you can very effectively generate electricity for less than you can generate electricity with coal or natural gas. Solar, there are places in South America now where these massive solar farms that have been really hugely built out. The problem is they only produce sunlight, they only produce when it's sunny out. On sunny days, the price of electricity can drop to like 2 cents, in one case even less than 2 cents during peak solar radiance. And so we can't quite compete with that. However, that involves covering thousands of acres, many hectares of land.
It's not efficient yet.
Well, it can't. There's a limit on the efficiency that you can get with it, and even though it's environmentally friendly, you're disrupting a lot of habitat, covering it, shading it over with all of those solar panels. Mm-hmm. Solar is actually nuclear energy, okay, except the nuclear source is about 8 light minutes away.
Light minutes, I like it.
So, wouldn't it be great if we could have this uncontrolled nuclear reactor that powers everything? Yeah, actually it would, except it's going to wipe out a lot of habitat to do that. Mm-hmm. What Brolin Energy is doing is we have developed technology that gives you nuclear energy density. It uses hydrogen. It's nuclear minus the nuke. We have a nuclear process that runs in a nuclear catalyst. We're using nickel. We live on a core planet. The core of this planet has a nickel iron core. Nickel is incredibly cheap. And so you have hydrogen as your fuel source, no radioactive input, no radioactive waste. The closest thing to penetrating radiation you have in operation is beta particle decay, which generates low-level X-rays, which is taking place inside of a metallic reactor. All of that radiation gets thermalized, and thermal energy is what drives the world. Most electricity worldwide doesn't come from here. If you're in Norway, right, pretty much all the electricity comes from hydro, all right? But and in Canada, a tremendous amount of it comes from hydro. We have the Canadian power companies are actually really interested in licensing our technology. Once we get it to market, we say, well, you won't be able to sell products in regular life now. We're not going to sell products. We can sell more electricity if we can make more electricity, but we can't make any more water. Mm-hmm. We're capacity limited by the amount of water that we can flow through our hydro generation plants. With your technology, we can make a lot more power and sell it to the U.S. because the U.S. regulations are going to keep you from putting it onto the grid for decades.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. It's like, sorry to argue with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So we're working on ways we can put things behind the meter. We will get it into service worldwide. There's a lot of places. China is the only country on the planet that has actually granted us our first patent application. We have patent applications all over the place, but everybody's pretty much following the U.S. lead and saying, "This is cold fusion. We're not going to
touch it.
We're not going to." We actually had an extended interview with the patent, the examiner on our patents, and he said, "Look, guys, we would actually, if it were up to me, I would grant you a patent." We're like, "Well, it is up to you." He's like, "Well, no, actually. My boss came by and said, you are absolutely not to grant this patent. We are not going to grant a patent on this." That makes it a lot more difficult to raise money. Okay. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't. A conspiracy indicates that there's a group of people that are organized, working specifically towards something to demo the 9/11 towers or whatever. But this is a lot of this technology is going to topple an enormous number of apple carts, and it's going to decentralize power in all of its forms. And there's a lot of people that really don't want power decentralized because
they have power and they're scared of what will happen.
You can really mess things up with concentrated power. Case in point.
Yes.
Where we're living.
Fair enough.
Right now. So, all of that, just like with blockchain technology, as you decentralize systems, it makes for a much more stable environment. When you decentralize energy generation, microgrids are coming online. It's a perfect match for the technology that we're developing. Right now, I'm not going to say how to do it, but a very small number of people with the crudest of tools could take out the entire electricity grid in California. We'd shut down the 6th largest economy in the world within a matter of seconds with a very minimal coordinated attack. It's kind of horrifying. But it's like we spent trillions of dollars now on homeland security. They busted a couple of people, most of them in other countries.
Yeah, good.
Nobody's really interested in taking out the United States. They really aren't.
They're about 30 seconds
So,
left.
so if I were to, and here's the thing, you said that you're going to be doing something with crypto.
Yes. So because it's been so difficult to raise money, and because we don't want any centralized authority controlling this technology, we're trying to figure out how to raise an energy futures, how to produce an energy futures token that you can use for all kinds of energy. Right now, the primary energy futures market is all about oil and natural gas. We want to, so that's a great way to start, but then we want to be able to use the token, introduce a discount rate for paying for your energy generated using Berlin technology. Like I said, at 10x, you can generate electricity effectively. At 20x, you can put it under the hood of your car, and your car has unlimited mileage. At 20 to 30x, this comes with a lifetime supply of energy.
Jeez.
You never have to charge it. That's the technology that we're developing. We need capital to get it there.
And you need a community to help drive it.
And we need a community to help us and say, no, you are not going to mess with these people.
Well, I'm glad that I got to be introduced to you. I'm not an expert in energy, but I do know the one thing that I know is that through all the time that I've spent in my period of time on this planet, is that, like I said to you before we started, scientists, thinkers, problem solvers have had issues with this forever, not being able to be funded or held back by these institutions. It's good to see, as a person who's been thinking beyond Bitcoin since pretty close to Bitcoin,
Yeah.
that we're getting to this place where people like you are really taking it and saying, I can do something with this.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest things we need is just that people can't shut it down.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea behind distributed energy. And one of the unique things about Berlin Energy is we have a stellar business team. We have people with a lot of business sense, a lot of business acumen. We're already doing very careful negotiations, negotiating licenses with Australia, with South Korea, with Canada. We're going directly to most favored nations to cut these contracts so that it can't be put under secrecy because it's already out of the country. We've already got that in place. So that's why Berlin Energy, Tesla had no business sense, okay?
He was a good guy.
He was a great guy, incredible. Everything that Edison came up with has been replaced. Nothing that Edison invented is still in use as
he made it.
The motor, the electric motor, the induction motor that Tesla came up with basically has really not changed since he came up with it, and that is the motive force that drives industry. Phenomenal.
Well, to me, if we can get cryptocurrencies into the hands of people like Tesla, and I believe that there are probably hundreds of thousands of people who are capable of making world-changing, that are on the cusp of it at this point in time. The more of people like you who get noticed in this, I very much hope that you guys have all the success in the world. I feel very privileged to be in the opportunity to be able to thank you, Frank, for making the connection.
Definitely. I guess can you tell people how to reach you? We're out of time on it.
So
thank you.
Scan this QR code and
move it that way. Perfect. And zoom. Come close. There you go.
All right. Scan that QR code. That will take you directly to a Google Drive folder with a ton of information on Berlin Energy.
That's the best
if you
way
want
to
to
do it.
invest, contact information is there.
Impressive.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you very much for taking what you've taken and done and taking it to the next level with cryptocurrency. And I thank you for taking us beyond Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Absolutely.